Black detective suffers unjust humiliation by police in luxury restaurant, but they regret amargly when they discover the truth. Detective Marcus Thompson adjusted his tie in the bathroom mirror of the luxurious Chicago restaurant, feeling the tension and anticipation pulse in his chest. The dark suit he wore, perfectly tailored to his shoulders, was a symbol not only of his promotion, but also of all the battles he had faced. He remembered his mother, a strong woman who always believed in dignity. "Today I will honor her," he thought to himself, smiling at the reflection that returned a look of determination. As he left the bathroom, Marcus was greeted by the vibrant atmosphere of the restaurant. Elegantly set tables were filled with well-dressed patrons, and the aroma of sophisticated cuisine filled the air. He walked towards the reserved table, where his friend and lawyer Rebecca Davis was already waiting. With a warm smile, she stood to greet him. "You look stunning, Marcus. Today is your day," Rebecca exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. She handed him a small box. "I brought you something." "Thank you, Rebecca. You always know how to surprise me," Marcus replied, opening the gift. Inside the box was a book on civil rights, with a handwritten dedication, "For the detective who will fight for more justice and equality." He smiled as he read, feeling the friendship and unwavering support he had always found in Rebecca. "Let's toast to this new phase in your life," she said, raising a champagne glass. Marcus did the same, and they exchanged glances. "To the promotion, and may many victories follow," he proposed, and they both drank, savoring the moment. However, the celebratory atmosphere was abruptly interrupted when Adam Walker, a lieutenant with a questionable reputation within the department, approached. His disdainful gaze and the way he approached signaled that something bad was about to happen. "Look who's here, the new hero of the force," Adam said sarcastically. "Do you really think you deserve this promotion, Marcus, with your origins?" Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The tension in the air was palpable. "Adam, this is not the time for that," he replied, trying to maintain his composure. "I'm here to celebrate an achievement, not to discuss your opinions about me." Rebecca positioned herself next to Marcus, ready to defend him. "Adam, this is unacceptable. You cannot simply undermine the hard work he put in to get here," she said firmly. Adam smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Oh, but that's exactly what I'm doing. Do you really think the department is going to change because of a guy like him? Wake up, Rebecca, he's only here because of political pressure." Marcus took a deep breath, trying not to let Adam's provocation affect him. "I'm here because I worked hard. My past does not define who I am today," he asserted, his voice steady. The conversation, which should have been a celebration, quickly turned into a verbal battleground. Rebecca felt her indignation rise within her. "You have no right to speak like that, Adam. What you're doing is a personal and racist attack," she said, her voice loud enough to attract the attention of other customers. The atmosphere in the restaurant was shifting, and Chef John Williams, who was seated at a nearby table, began to notice the commotion. He stood up, confused, and approached the trio. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking at Marcus and Rebecca before turning his gaze to Adam. "We're just discussing our dear detective's promotion," Adam replied, trying to mask the hostility in his tone. Marcus didn't hesitate. "This isn't a discussion, Chef. Adam is attacking me for being who I am. That's the reality within our department." Tension escalated, and other diners began to turn their heads, some already pulling out their phones to document what was happening. Rebecca, sensing the gravity of the situation, looked at John, pleading with her eyes for him to intervene. "Chef, this needs to stop. The culture of discrimination cannot be tolerated." John hesitated, his eyes darting between Adam and Marcus as the atmosphere around them grew heavier. The moment that should have been a celebration was turning into an unexpected confrontation, and Marcus felt humiliation settle in his heart. The atmosphere in the luxurious Chicago restaurant was vibrant, filled with laughter and animated conversations. Soft lights over the elegantly arranged tables created a welcoming environment, perfect for celebrating achievements. Marcus Thompson was radiant, his suit well-fitted and his smile lighting up his face. He could hardly contain the joy he felt at the thought of the promotion he would soon receive. It was a significant step in his career, something that represented not only his hard work and dedication, but also his mother's legacy, who had always taught him to fight against injustice. As he and his friend, lawyer Rebecca Davis, toasted to the future, their conversation flowed naturally. "You're about to make history, Marcus. This promotion is a well-deserved recognition," Rebecca said, holding a book on civil rights, a symbolic gift for her friend. "Thank you, Rebecca. That means a lot to me. I want my journey to inspire others not to give up," Marcus replied, his eyes shining with determination. However, the festive atmosphere was abruptly interrupted when Adam Walker, a police lieutenant and Marcus's rival, entered the scene. He approached with a disdainful look, his intentions clearly malicious. "Look who's here, the new hero of the police. Do you really think you deserve this promotion, Marcus?" The provocation was clear in his words, and an awkward silence enveloped the room. Marcus, trying to maintain his composure, took a deep breath. "Adam, this is a celebration. It's not the time for unnecessary discussions." His voice was firm, but the growing tension was palpable. Adam laughed, a scornful sound. "Unnecessary? Are you kidding? You, a potential criminal? Everyone knows you only got here because of the color of your skin. You have no merit." Adam's cutting words echoed through the restaurant, drawing the attention of other patrons who began to look on with curiosity and discomfort. Before we continue with this exciting story, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any stories. And let us know which city you're watching this video from in the comments. Rebecca, horrified, immediately stood up. "This is unacceptable, Adam. You can't just attack someone's character without evidence. Marcus is an excellent police officer and deserves respect." His voice was loud and clear, but Adam ignored it, focusing all his energy on Marcus. "Respect? For whom? For an opportunist? People might think you're a role model, but I know the truth." Adam stepped closer, challenging him with a look of disdain. The situation intensified when Chief John Williams, who had heard the commotion, approached with a confused expression. "What's going on here?" he asked, trying to grasp the tense dynamics before him. Adam, realizing John's presence, attempted to justify his stance. "Chief, I'm just pointing out that this guy isn't who everyone thinks he is. He doesn't deserve this promotion." Marcus, feeling the humiliation surrounding him, decided, "I'm not a criminal, Adam. I'm here because I've worked hard. You can try to belittle me, but that won't change who I am or what I've achieved." His voice resonated with dignity, yet the pain of humiliation still cut deeply. John looked between the two men, the tension in the air almost palpable. "Marcus, what's really going on?" he asked, seeking a clear explanation. "Chief, Adam is just trying to undermine my promotion with baseless and racist accusations," Marcus replied, his tone now more assertive. He felt he needed to defend himself, not just for his own honor, but for everyone who faced similar situations. Adam, sensing that his provocation was backfiring, tried to change the subject, but Marcus's determination was unshakable. "Look at yourself, Adam. Your attitude says more about you than it does about me. Change needs to start within each of us." The room fell silent, everyone waiting for the next development. Marcus's humiliation had transformed into a burning determination. He knew this moment could be a turning point, both for his life and the culture within the police force. But as the tension built around him, he wondered how far this fight would take him. The atmosphere in the restaurant was thick with tension, as if the air were about to snap. Marcus, already visibly affected by the public humiliation, felt a mix of anger and desperation as Adam approached, surrounded by a group of curious customers who were now reveling in the scene. "You're a criminal, Marcus. Everyone in the department knows it," Adam said, his voice loud enough to draw disapproving glances from some and snickers from others. The contempt in the lieutenant's tone resonated like a sentence, and the words felt like a direct blow to Marcus's heart. "Adam, that's ridiculous," Marcus replied, trying to maintain his dignity. He took a deep breath, remembering his mother, the struggles he had faced, and what this promotion meant to him. "You can't just go around making unfounded accusations." Rebecca, who was standing next to Marcus, felt her blood boil. "This is unacceptable, Adam. You have no right to speak to him like that. You know it's a lie." Her voice, though firm, trembled with indignation. The look in Rebecca's eyes was one of pure determination, but also concern as she watched her friend being attacked. Adam, on the other hand, seemed to be enjoying the situation. "Oh, but who's going to believe you, Rebecca? You're just a lawyer trying to promote yourself," he teased with a sarcastic smile. "Enough, Adam." John Williams, the police chief, finally stepped in, interrupting the spectacle. With a confused expression, he assessed the situation. "What's going on here?" He looked at Marcus, searching for answers. "I'm a criminal according to Lieutenant Walker," Marcus said, his voice controlled, but the pain was evident. "It seems he can't handle the idea that I've been promoted." John frowned, trying to comprehend the gravity of what was happening. Adam, this is serious. You're making very grave accusations. What do you have to say for yourself? Adam hesitated, a flash of doubt crossing his face. He knew he was in trouble but refused to back down. Marcus is always getting into trouble. He might be using his new status to cover up his actions. We all know he's not trustworthy. You're just exposing your own prejudice, Adam, Rebecca said, her voice raised, drawing even more attention. This kind of behavior and speech has no place in the police force. You should be ashamed. Rebecca's words echoed in John's mind, and he began to realize the seriousness of the situation. He looked from Adam to Marcus, then to Rebecca, feeling a weight building in his chest. Adam, this isn't just about personal rivalry. We're talking about respect and dignity. You need to understand that your words have consequences. Adam, sensing he was losing control of the situation, tried to change the topic. Look, I'm just saying what everyone thinks. He's not the hero you think he is. Maybe you're the only one thinking that, Marcus replied, feeling his blood boil. You're so caught up in your prejudice that you can't see the truth. Look at yourself, Adam. You're perpetuating a cycle of racism and discrimination, and it can't continue like this. The silence that followed was heavy, as if everyone in the restaurant was holding their breath. The cameras of cell phones were still pointed at them, capturing every word, every expression. John, for his part, was torn, but Marcus's words struck home. He knew something needed to change, but doubt still lingered. The tension among the four became palpable. Marcus felt a wave of determination. He would not allow Adam to bring him down. Today, you can attack me with words, but that won't erase my integrity. What you've done here is a disgrace to all of us. It was then that the reality of the situation began to manifest. What started as a celebration had turned into a confrontation that exposed not just one man's weaknesses, but the system that supported him. Marcus's struggle was not just for himself, but for what he represented. And in that moment, the truth was unfolding before everyone. The incident in the restaurant quickly spread across social media. Images of Marcus and Adam were shared and commented on thousands of times, and the impact was immediate. Marcus watched as his phone vibrated incessantly beside his wineglass, while the night dragged on, marked by an uncomfortable silence. He couldn't ignore the notifications, and each ping felt like a reminder of the humiliation he had endured. Look at this, Marcus, Rebecca said, her face reflecting concern. She held her phone, showing the screen with a post displaying a photo of the moment Adam publicly accused him, accompanied by a text full of indignation. People are mobilizing. It's not just you and me. This has really made an impact. It's easy to be outraged from behind a screen, Marcus replied, his voice strained. But what if I don't want to be the face of this fight? What do I gain from it? Rebecca leaned against the table, her eyes locked on Marcus. You gain a voice, Marcus. You gain the chance to use your experience to show that racism isn't an isolated issue, that it's not just about you and Adam. Look around. How many other people have gone through this and don't have anyone to defend them? He took a deep breath, feeling the pressure of the situation intensifying. I just wanted tonight to be different. I wanted to celebrate. Now all I feel is anger and humiliation. And that anger can be transformed into something powerful, Rebecca insisted, her determination evident. You can use this to open many eyes, to inspire change. You're not alone. The truth is, many people are willing to stand with you. Marcus looked at the phone screen where more comments kept appearing. Some supported his struggle while others were filled with hostility, attacking his integrity. But what if this only makes things worse? What if I end up putting a target on my own back? That's a risk everyone fighting against injustice faces, Rebecca replied, holding Marcus's hand. But you're a detective, Marcus. You know that fighting against racism is a battle worth taking on. Look at what Adam did. He can't go unpunished. We can't allow this kind of behavior to go unnoticed. Marcus's eyes softened as he heard the passion in her voice. He knew Rebecca had always been an unwavering advocate for justice. What if I don't know how to do this? I'm not an activist. I'm just a cop trying to do my job as best I can. You're already an activist, Marcus, Rebecca said firmly. You just haven't realized it yet. You're fighting this battle every day, and now you have the chance to make that fight larger. Let's work on this together. You can speak, and I'll help you articulate your message. We can create a movement. Marcus felt a wave of hope mixed with uncertainty. What if the police turn against me? And if they do, that only shows they're afraid of the truth. If you don't speak out, who will? We need to confront systemic racism head-on, and you have a platform now. It's time to use it. He hesitated, but the idea of becoming a voice for those who felt powerless began to resonate within him. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I should try." Rebecca smiled, a spark of determination in her eyes. "That's all we need. Let's do this together." As they talked, John Williams, the chief, assessed the situation from his desk, where news about the incident was coming in real time. He knew the fallout was growing, and the pressure on the police force to act was increasing. Reading the comments about the need for reform, a sense of urgency started to take hold of him. "I can't stay silent about this," he murmured to himself, observing the outrage on social media. "It's time to face this issue head-on and take action." Adam Walker was sitting on the couch in his living room, his gaze fixed on the phone screen that vibrated incessantly. The news about the incident at the restaurant had spread like wildfire, and the avalanche of comments hit him hard. He felt the weight of humiliation not just in relation to Marcus, but also towards himself. The words he had spoken, an unfounded accusation filled with prejudice, echoed in his mind, and he couldn't escape the shame that consumed him. "How could I do this?" he murmured to himself, as the image of Marcus, dressed in a suit with his dignity wounded, flashed in his memory. He had seen the pain in the detective's eyes, a friend and colleague he had disdained in a moment of arrogance. The phone rang again, and he answered without looking. "Adam, have you seen what they're saying about you?" His younger sister, Sarah, sounded worried but also determined. "Yes, I've seen it, Sarah. I don't need reminding," Adam replied, trying to remain calm, but frustration seeped into his voice. "You need to explain yourself. What happened there? What were you thinking?" insisted Sarah, her voice now more assertive. Adam took a deep breath. "I don't know. I let arrogance take over. I was an idiot." "An idiot? You destroyed a man's career and exposed your racism for everyone to see. What do you think that means, and what are you going to do now?" she questioned, and the intensity of her words made him feel even more guilty. "I don't know, Sarah. What I did was horrible. I need to change this, but how?" he replied, running his hands over his face, feeling increasingly lost. "Maybe you should start looking at yourself. Why do you feel this way? Why did you think you had the right to belittle Marcus?" she continued, her voice now softer, but still full of determination. That question made him reflect. Adam had never considered himself racist, but the actions he had taken that day were undeniably racist. He remembered conversations he had with friends about the order the police should maintain, and how often that order was upheld at the expense of others' dignity. "You're right, Sarah. I need to understand why I did this. I don't want to be like this," he said, his voice now firmer. "Then start educating yourself. Read, talk, listen. It's not just about you now. It's about the people you've harmed, and you need to do this for yourself, but also for them," she suggested, and Adam felt that for the first time he was beginning to see a light at the end of the tunnel. "I'll do it," Adam promised. "I'll make an effort to change, but I don't know if Marcus will forgive me." "Maybe you don't deserve his forgiveness right now, but that doesn't mean you can't try. Go to him, talk. Showing that you're regretful is a first step," Sarah advised. The idea of facing Marcus terrified him, but at the same time he felt it was what he needed to do. He couldn't stay silent. He couldn't ignore what he had done. "I'll reach out to him. I can't promise he'll accept my apology, but at least I need to try," Adam said, determined. "That's a good start, Adam. And remember, true change starts from within you," Sarah concluded, her voice now encouraging. Adam hung up, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. He realized that he had a long road ahead of him, but he was determined to walk that path not just for Marcus, but for all the people who, like him, had been affected by the systemic racism that permeated police culture. It was time to take responsibility, and he was ready to face the challenges that would come. Rebecca was resolute. The incident at the restaurant still echoed in her mind, and the injustice that Marcus had suffered could not be ignored. That morning, she woke up with a renewed purpose and began planning what could be a significant mobilization against the racism that infiltrated not only the police force, but society as a whole. She knew she needed to act, and that Marcus, her friend and advocate for justice, should be at the center of the fight. Throughout the day, Rebecca sent messages and called various people in her network. "We need support, and not just today. We need real change," she said, her voice firm and determined. As she organized the details, the idea of a protest began to take shape. The concept was simple: gather the community to demand accountability and change. The police could not continue to operate as if racism did not exist. After a few hours of preparation, Rebecca decided to visit Marcus. She wanted to convince him to join her in the movement. When she arrived at his apartment, she found him sitting on the couch, his eyes glued to the computer screen, where news about the incident was being shared and debated. He looked visibly shaken. "Hey, Marcus, we need to talk," said Rebecca, closing the door behind her. She sat down beside him, observing the pained expression on his face. "Rebecca, I don't know if I can handle all of this. People are talking about me in ways I never imagined," he replied, his voice choked with emotion. Rebecca took his hand and squeezed it. "I know it's hard, but that's exactly why we need to do something. You can't let this bring you down. You are a symbol of change and your voice needs to be heard. I'm organizing a protest in support of you and to fight against racism in the police. You need to be there." Marcus looked at her confused. "Their protest? What if I become a target again? I don't know if I have the courage to face this." "That's exactly why you should go. You're not alone. The community is by your side. Think of all the other people who have suffered the same as you. Your voice can inspire others to stand up and share their stories. Together we can make a difference," she insisted, her passion evident. He took a deep breath, contemplating her words. "What if it all ends badly? What if nothing changes? And what if it does change? What if you can inspire someone to join the fight? What happened to you cannot be ignored, and you cannot stay silent now," Rebecca said firmly, rising and starting to organize her papers. "Let's mobilize the community. We need everyone to know we are fighting for justice." Rebecca's words began to penetrate Marcus's mind. He stood up, feeling a spark of determination. "You're right. I can't let this define me. If my voice can help someone, then I will. Let's do this." Rebecca smiled, relieved. "Great. Let's start spreading the word and inviting everyone. The media should be there too. This won't just be about you, but about all who have faced discrimination." The energy in the air was palpable. As the hours passed, the idea of the protest took shape. Rebecca and Marcus worked tirelessly, creating posters and organizing an event on social media. The protest gained momentum quickly, and the community's response exceeded their expectations. Messages of support and promises to attend began flooding their inboxes. On the day of the protest, the square was filled with people. Marcus, a bit nervous, looked around, seeing familiar and unfamiliar faces, all united by a common cause. He felt strengthened by the solidarity surrounding him. Rebecca was by his side, holding a sign that read, "United against racism, justice for all." "Look at this. Your fight isn't just yours, it's ours," Rebecca said, smiling at him. "I never imagined I'd have so much support. This is incredible," Marcus replied, his heart warmed by the crowd's determination. As the event began, Marcus stepped onto the stage, facing the microphone with a mix of anxiety and courage. He looked out at the crowd, and amid the applause and shouts of encouragement, he began to speak, his voice steady, reflecting the hope and urgency he felt. "Today we are here not just to remember what happened to each of us, but to demand change. Racism cannot be tolerated, and justice must prevail for all. Together, we are stronger." The cheers of support echoed, and Marcus felt that, in that moment, he was not just fighting for himself but for all those who had been unjustly silenced. The room was filled with police officers, and the atmosphere was thick, almost palpable, as if an invisible weight pressed down on each of them. Chief John Williams, standing before the conference table, felt his heart race. The humidity in the air seemed to rise, and he knew he was about to face a battle that could change the course of his career and the police force itself. "We need to address the issue of racism within our department," he started, his voice firm but with a slight tremor revealing his anxiety. "The incident involving Detective Marcus Thompson is not an isolated case. It reflects a culture that needs to change." The officers' gazes fixed on John, some with expressions of skepticism, others with disdain. Lieutenant Adam Walker, who had become the target of public discontent after Marcus's humiliation at the restaurant, sat in front with his arms crossed, a defensive expression on his face. "You're exaggerating, John. This is just a storm in a teacup." Marcus let himself get carried away by emotion. "Emotion?" John repeated, his tone rising. "We're talking about an officer who was publicly dismantled by one of his own colleagues. The way we treat him reflects directly on us and the trust that the community places in our force. We need to be better. Murmurs began to arise in the room, and John could hear some colleagues whispering. "This isn't the place for a political discussion," said one of the older officers, shaking his head. "The police culture has been this way for years. Why change now?" "Because we can no longer ignore the problems that exist within our own house," John replied, his voice now louder and filled with fervor. "Each of you knows that this isn't the first time we've heard about racist behaviors. Letting this slide will only make the situation worse. If we don't change, we will continue to lose the trust of the community we swore to protect." "Do you really think you can change this, John?" Adam asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What are you proposing? A diversity training? What will that solve?" "Yes, Adam, it's a start," John replied with renewed firmness. "We need training. We need audits on our processes, and above all, we need a change of mindset. We can no longer be complacent. What happened to Marcus was a humiliation, but it was also a wake-up call for all of us." The looks in the room began to shift. Some officers started nodding, others appeared more contemplative. "We need a plan," said a woman with a strong posture who had never spoken before. "If we're going to do this, we need a solid plan, something we can all follow. Otherwise, this will just be another empty meeting." "I agree," John said, feeling a wave of hope. "Let's create a committee. We need voices from all levels. Change must be collective." Adam, visibly uncomfortable, could not ignore the fact that he was losing control of the situation. "This isn't the right path, John. You're going to hurt your own career. The hierarchy won't accept this. The culture of the police is fiercely protective. Maybe it's time to rethink what it means to be part of that culture, Adam," John replied, looking him directly in the eye, challenging him. "I can no longer stay silent, and you shouldn't either." The tension in the room was palpable. John knew he was about to make enemies, but he also felt he was on the right path. He looked at each officer around him, hoping to see a spark of understanding in their eyes. "If we do nothing now, we will be failing not only Marcus but all the citizens who trust us, and I refuse to be part of a force that perpetuates fear and discrimination." The room fell silent, and John's determination echoed off the walls. He was ready to fight, but now he needed the courage of his colleagues for that fight to be effective. The atmosphere in the Chicago Tribune newsroom was tense. The editor-in-chief, Robert, looked at the computer screen where headlines about the incident at the restaurant shone in bold letters. "Racism within the police. The case of Marcus Thompson." It was a title that promised repercussions. He called in reporter Lisa, who was leading the coverage of the case. "Lisa, we need a deeper investigation into Adam Walker. What can you find on his background?" Robert asked, already imagining the dimensions this story could take. "I'll scour the files and see if there's anything in the records of complaints or previous incidents. The public needs to know who Adam Walker really is," Lisa replied, determined. She had always been a champion of truth and investigative journalism, and this case motivated her even more. Meanwhile, on social media, the video of Marcus Thompson's humiliation was spreading like wildfire. Reactions varied. Many supported Marcus, while others tried to belittle his experience. One comment that caught Marcus's attention read, "This is just what happens when you put a criminal in a position of power." The pain caused by such attacks was palpable, but there was also a sea of support that encouraged him to move forward. That morning, Marcus decided he could not remain silent. He prepared for a conference on systemic racism that would take place in the city. He put on a blue shirt that contrasted with his skin, a symbol of his pride and resilience. "If my voice can bring about some change, I need to use it," he thought. At the conference, the auditorium was packed. He stepped onto the stage, feeling the weight of the audience's gaze upon him. The crowd was a mix of activists, journalists, and ordinary citizens. As he began his speech, he felt a chill in his stomach, but determination took over. "Good afternoon, everyone. I am here not just as a detective, but as a man who has been targeted by prejudice and racism at a moment that should have been one of celebration," Marcus began, his voice steady. "What happened at the restaurant is not an isolated case. It reflects a culture that needs to be dismantled." The audience applauded, and he continued, "We need to talk about systemic racism within institutions, especially within the police. We cannot ignore the voices that have been silenced. It's time to recognize that what happened to me is not an exception, but the rule." As he spoke, Marcus saw Rebecca in the crowd, her gaze filled with support and pride. She knew she was witnessing a pivotal moment. After the speech, a reporter approached him. "Marcus, what do you hope will happen now?" she asked, holding a recorder. I hope people start to question that officers like Adam Walker reevaluate their beliefs and attitudes. We need reforms and leaders willing to speak the truth and seek justice, Marcus replied, his look resolute. The fallout from the event was immediate. The media began investigating not only Marcus's case, but also Adam Walker's background. Every detail that emerged fueled the narrative that corruption and racism were deeply rooted in the police force. In one of the reports, Lisa revealed, "Internal sources have confirmed that Walker has faced complaints for discriminatory behavior on several occasions." The words echoed in Marcus's mind. He knew this was just the beginning. Meanwhile, at home, Adam watched the news. He felt suffocated by the growing pressure. The image of Marcus, strong and determined, contrasted starkly with his own image, now seen as that of a villain. He turned off the television and stared at the mirror, questioning what kind of man he truly wanted to be. Marcus, on the other hand, felt empowered. He was becoming a public figure, not just because of his humiliation, but because of his fight for justice. The community supported him, and he knew this could be the catalyst for significant change. As he prepared for the next step, Marcus was not only fighting for himself, but for all those who had been silenced, and that motivated him even more. The atmosphere in the event hall was charged with tension. Bright lights reflected off crystal glasses as guests murmured about the recent events that had shaken the city. In the center of the room, Marcus Thompson found himself surrounded by curious and supportive glances, but also by disapproving ones. He was determined not to let the weight of previous humiliation shake him. However, his focus was interrupted by the presence of Adam Walker, who approached with a tense expression. "Marcus," Adam began hesitantly, "can we talk? We need to clear the—" Marcus averted his gaze, his heart racing as anger and indignation built up inside him. "Clear the air about what, Adam? That you feel entitled to publicly attack me and still think you can act as if nothing happened?" Marcus's voice was firm, but the pain of humiliation still echoed in his words. I was wrong," Adam insisted, his nervousness evident. "The pressure has been intense, and I didn't think. I don't want this to come between us." Marcus crossed his arms, his expression impassive. "Between us? Don't you realize this is much bigger than a personal feud? It involves the lives of many people, the fight against the systemic racism you perpetuated." Adam hesitated, his face flushing under the weight of Marcus's words. "I know I can't change what I did, but I'm trying. I want to do better." "Talking isn't enough, Adam. Change requires action and reflection. Are you really willing to do that?" Marcus's question hung in the air, and Adam, sensing the gravity of the situation, bit his lower lip, conflicted. Meanwhile, the conversation between the two had not gone unnoticed. Some of Adam's colleagues approached, gesturing and murmuring among themselves. The atmosphere was about to boil over. One officer, a burly man with a scowling face, turned to Adam. "You're not thinking about apologizing, are you? After what you did, you can't just walk away unscathy." Tension mounted. Adam looked at his colleagues. "I'm not here to apologize to you. I'm trying to be a better man," he shot back, his voice now louder but laced with insecurity. Marcus observed the scene, recognizing that the moment could be decisive. He turned to Adam once more, deciding it was time to confront him with reality. "You need to understand, Adam, that your actions don't just affect your reputation. They have a profound impact on the community. You have a responsibility that you cannot ignore." At that moment, a senior officer, gray-haired and authoritative, approached, interrupting the conversation. "Adam, are you aware of what's happening outside this room? Public pressure is mounting. People are demanding answers." Adam, now wide-eyed, shook his head. I know, but I'm not prepared to face this. What I did was a mistake." "And what are you going to do about it?" the officer questioned, his expression severe. "You can't just People are talking about firings, and you could be next." Marcus watched the scene, realizing that the power dynamics were shifting. The officer's words resonated in his mind. Adam was cornered, and the pressure was building. The murmurs around them grew louder, and the atmosphere became increasingly hostile. "I will take responsibility," Adam finally asserted, his voice trembling. "I'm here to learn. I never wanted to be this person." Marcus felt a mix of anger and compassion. He knew Adam was facing his own demons, but that didn't erase what he had done. "It's a start, but it's not enough. You need to be transparent and honest. You can't expect things to just change on their own." And so, as the room buzzed with conversations and evaluative glances, Marcus prepared for what was to come. The tension between them felt like a thread about to snap, and he knew the final confrontation was approaching. In the hearing room, an oppressive silence hung in the air. Marcus Thompson sat at the front, tension visible on his face. He held a folder containing documents and evidence detailing not only the humiliating incident at the restaurant, but also other racist behaviors by Adam Walker. The room was filled with police officers, lawyers, and community representatives, all attentive to what was about to unfold. Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew his words could have a profound impact. When he was called to testify, Marcus stood up, his presence firm and determined. He walked to the center of the room, where a table was set for him to present his evidence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today I am not just here to recount what happened that fateful night. I am here to expose an issue that is not only about me, but about the culture that permeates our police force." He opened the folder, pulling out a series of documents and videos that captured not only his humiliation, but also other instances of discrimination. "This video," he said, pointing to the screen, "is not an isolated case. It reflects a mindset that needs to be confronted and eradicated." Adam's eyes, seated at the opposing table, widened. He knew he was in trouble. Marcus's face was resolute, but Adam's heart began to race. "You're exaggerating, Marcus," Adam tried to interrupt, but Marcus's voice cut through the air like a blade. "I am not exaggerating, Adam. This racist and dismissive behavior is not just a stain on our reputation, but an open wound in the community we swore to protect." The room was in absolute silence, everyone absorbing each word. Adam's lawyer stood up, attempting to redirect attention. "Mr. Thompson, you can't just accuse my client without concrete evidence. What you're presenting is a personal narrative, not evidence." Marcus looked at the lawyer, his gaze firm. "Personal narrative? Each of these pieces of evidence is backed by witnesses. This is not a personal attack, it is a call to action." He presented a video of other victims of discrimination, each sharing their painful experiences. These stories need to be heard. They cannot be ignored. Tension in the room escalated. Adam, realizing he was without support, began to sweat. "This isn't fair. I have an exemplary service record." He defended himself, but his voice faltered, and his desperate gaze searched for support among his colleagues. "An exemplary service record cannot justify the perpetuation of racist behavior," Marcus replied, determination echoing in his voice. "It's time to accept that we need to change. We need a police force that serves everyone, regardless of skin color." The audience was clearly deep. Some of Adam's colleagues looked hesitant, while others nodded in approval at what Marcus was saying. "You're right, Marcus," one of the officers finally spoke up. "We need to face this head on." Adam was now surrounded by a storm of criticism. "Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about," he shouted, but his tone was one of desperation. Marcus's words had planted a seed of doubt among his supporters. Finally, the audience reached a climax. Marcus, with a firm voice, concluded his presentation. "I'm not here to seek revenge, but to demand change, so we can work together in an environment where everyone feels safe and respected." He looked directly at Adam, who was visibly shaken. "What happened between us shouldn't be forgotten, but should serve as a lesson." The audience's decision was swift. Adam, pressured by the compelling evidence and the growing outrage from his colleagues, was forced to accept his resignation. The murmurs in the room grew, and Marcus's eyes filled with tears upon hearing the announcement. The feeling of revenge was sweet, but he also felt a weight in his heart. "I didn't want it to end this way," Marcus said, addressing Adam one last time, his voice low but filled with sincerity. "But you need to understand that change begins within you." Adam, now speechless, merely nodded, absorbing the gravity of his actions. He realized that the true path to redemption was to acknowledge and confront his own prejudices. As the audience dispersed, Marcus received public recognition for his courage and determination. Rebecca stood by his side, emotional, and together, they knew this fight was just beginning. The new organization she would found would focus on police reform and combating racism. Adam, for his part, reflected on his actions, understanding that true change not only started within himself, but also required. We have reached the end of this moving story. If you enjoyed it and want to see more accounts like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Right now there's a playlist of videos on your screen. If you want to continue watching these touching stories, just click on it and you'll start watching. And now, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from and leave your like to support our work. Now, a sincere question. Do you agree with what happened in the story? We want to know your opinion. Until the next video.